YouTube, what is good? So for today's video, I just wanted to sit down, have a candid conversation with you, just talk about something with you, share some experiences with you. As y'all know, up until the beginning of this year, street photography wasn't really something I did a lot of. And one of my big goals for this year was to really improve in street photography. Now granted, photography was something I was already doing. I was doing it professionally. It's just, I never had the confidence in street photography. And as this year has gone on, I've really turned a corner. I think my work has gotten much better. And today I want to share with you some things I learned along the way that really helped me improve my street photography over the years. So hopefully you can take this info, apply it to what you're doing, and improve your street photography as well. Street photography is one of those weird things where it's just extremely difficult. There's no way around it. It's a very intimidating form of photography, and it's not always represented well online in my opinion. Now, real quick before we get going, I want to thank the sponsor on today's episode, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes in design, business, technology, and more. And premium memberships give you unlimited access to high quality classes from experts working in their field so you can improve your skill and unlock new opportunities and do the work you love. When I first got started with photography, one class I found particularly interesting and useful was by a photographer named Trash Hand. He was more on Instagram, more of an architect photographer, but it had so much valuable information that I still use today in a lot of my photography. So Skillshare is giving all the viewers on this channel an incredible opportunity to experience these online classes. Head to the link in the description on this video once the video is done, once you watch through it. The first 500 people to go to that link get 2 months free on Skillshare. That's an amazing deal, an amazing way to learn more about photography, especially if this is a career you're trying to get into. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about some street photography and my advice on how you can improve like I did over the course of this year. So here we go. The first thing that exponentially helped my street photography was actually defining what street photography means to me. Everyone has their own definitions. When you start getting into street photography, you look online, it's like, if you're not doing this, it's not street photography. If you're not doing this, it's not street photography. When in reality, as a genre of art, street photography has a pretty loose definition of what exactly it is. There are definitely some requirements that you have to meet, but aside from that, it's kind of up for interpretation. I wrote it down in my phone really quick, the exact definition I found online. Street photography is unmeditated chance encounters and random incidences within public places. That's it. So basically, you're creating art around the random events that are happening in public places. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a city. It doesn't even have to necessarily be in a street. Street photography can be whatever you want. But one big hurdle, I guess you could say, that I had was I was always defining it by what other people wanted. I looked at someone like Bruce Gilden and was like, street photography is up in people's personal space. These, characters and portraits, you're right up in people's business. And that was never me. And that was something I really struggled with. I wanted to make street photography, but I thought that meant doing something outside of my nature. That's tough. I didn't want to do that. So this year I really took a step back and said, what is street photography to me? What is it that I want to photograph? And if you watch the videos, you can see this progression from the beginning of the year to now. Basically what I started doing was looking for scenes that I found interesting. I can't remember the painter's name. It's like slipping my brain right now. But he's that painter who would they were like very mundane scenes, but were interesting. Some of them were set at night. I think the diner one is his most famous piece. I cannot remember this guy's name, but I look at his work and I think that's what I want my street photography to be. I want it to be these scenes, these moments that are happening that aren't necessarily invading someone's personal space, but all the characteristics of these certain situations are all coming together perfectly to create what I consider art. That's how I look at it. That's how I've defined street photography. For me, it's this synergy between people, the environment, the weather, the scene, just everything happening all in that split second to kind of crack the code and create art, and then it's gone. So that's how I look at it. That's how I define street photography now for myself. And it's been a huge part of me, one, enjoying street photography more, and two, actually getting better because my photos now represent me and what's true to myself. So the second thing that's really helped me out over the course of this year is slowing down. When you're out shooting, it can get so easy to just get crazy in your head. You want to make photos. You're like, I want to get something good today. A lot of times when I do street photography behind the scenes, something you don't see in the videos is me standing around in certain locations for 10, 20, sometimes even 30 minutes. In the last street photography video we had, the one that was titled Real Day of Street Photography or A Real Hour of Street Photography, something like that, half of the hour that I was out was spent at one place waiting for one thing to happen. And unfortunately, it never did, but I just slowed the process down. I said, okay, we're on to something here. I'm going to stand here for 30 minutes. I would have stood there, honestly, for probably 2 hours if the lighting wasn't moving and changing, because that was a big piece of the photo. I'm getting off topic here. But basically, my point is slow down. You know, I used to not stress out, but it used to like get anxious almost when I was out doing street photos. I felt like I had to always be moving, looking for the next thing, where now I might realize that one component of a photo is there, and the best bet for me to be successful is just slowing down and waiting. And also the same goes for when you are actually walking around and you're looking for certain things. Don't be so frantic. Just look around, take it all in, and really appreciate what you're looking at. Slow down, because it's so easy on the streets to miss something that could be happening. Granted, these are all split-second moments coming together like I mentioned, so just slowing it down, taking it all in, relaxing is a huge piece of being successful in street photography, in my opinion. Now, the third thing that's helped me out is simplifying the process. And what I mean by that is, you know, for me, I think street photography, you can use whatever equipment you want. 35mm is definitely my favorite. I think it's the go-to street photography lens. It's the classic look. But in my opinion, I don't think you only have to use 35mm. I think you can use whatever you want, however you want. But here's the thing. Keeping it simple is the key. When I go out to shoot street photos now, I usually just bring one camera and one lens. And typically, if I'm doing it behind the scenes, I might have 2 cameras with me, but sometimes I just don't. Sometimes I just bring one camera body and deal with it. That's why sometimes you see me doing street photos with my DSLR, even though I prefer using like my X Pro 2 or even my Fuji X-H1 because it's a little smaller, but it is what it is. It's much easier for me as a whole process to just say, all right, here's your only option today. One camera body, one camera lens. And if you happen to miss a photo because you don't have the right lens or whatever the case may be, deal with it. And then next time, go out with the lens that you think you should have had this time. That's the way I look at it. It clears my brain. I'm not constantly worrying about, oh, if I change my lens now, I could do this. If I change my lens now, I could do this. It just simplifies the whole process. And I honestly regret selling my Fuji X100F because that was like the most simple street photo camera ever. It was just camera body, lens attached, no option to switch. Shouldn't have sold that thing. I'm probably going to end up buying a new one here sometime in the sort of near future. But that's my third piece of advice. So this next piece is hands down the most important thing. It's also the thing that is the most difficult to do and most people don't want to do. And that is just getting out, grinding, shooting, repeating, over and over, getting that repetition in. I mention this in vlogs all the time. Photography to me is a lot like sports. It's a lot like playing professional sports. You need to get your repetitions in. If you want to get good at free throws, you got to shoot a lot of free throws. If you want to get good street photographs, you got to shoot a lot of street photographs, and you got to miss a lot of street photos before you start making them consistently. That's one huge piece of this process, making bad photos. This YouTube channel gives me a really unique opportunity to show kind of the real process behind my images, in that there's a lot of days we go out to shoot and we get some cool stuff, some stuff that I think is interesting, but it's not, you know, the amazing photos that I do end up making some days. And it's those bad days that lead to the good days. It all works together. So you got to block out this idea and notion of, oh, I went out to make photos for 2 hours today and left with nothing I really liked. I suck at photography. What's most important is the fact that you got out there, you got the repetition in, and you can use that practice in the next time you're out shooting. You're just sharpening that blade over and over again to eventually make those photos that you want to make. It's kind of a hot take, but I don't think street photography is one of those things you can really excel at by just going out and doing every now and again. You know, like once every 3 months you go out for an hour to try to make street photos. I just don't know if you're going to find success and you're going to be happy with your work. It's one of those things that just takes a lot of repetition. You have to keep your mind zoned in on what photos you're looking for, what you want to make, what you're trying to say with your work, what you're trying to see, where you need to go. There's so many questions, so many factors in street photography. If you're not dedicated to it, it can get really easy to miss things and just not enjoy what street photography is. It's one of those weird things where the more you do it, the better you get, the more fun you're gonna have, but it's kind of a miserable experience if you're not putting the right amount of time in. So just keep that in mind. Street photography, it's all about repetition. So there we go. That's pretty much it when it comes to what I've done this year to really improve on my street photography. One other thing that's kind of an honorable mention is studying. If you're getting an art degree, you most likely have to take an art history class. Same thing goes for street photography. Go on Google, look up famous street photographers, look up classic street photography, just type in street photography. Go look at a book at your local bookstore, whatever you want to do. Just get familiar with what makes great street photos great, and just, I don't know, like expose yourself to street photography more. You could even do it on Instagram. Go look up hashtag street photography or find street photography accounts. Whatever the case may be, just getting more street photos in front of your face so you can get familiar with what concepts make photos good, what concepts make photos bad, how street photography can be very simple and very complex depending on how you look at it. Just do a little bit of homework, you know, research different things about composition. Composition is huge for street photography. Whatever you want to do, just study, learn a little bit, research the thing that you're trying to do better. That's kind of a given, but definitely wanted to mention it. So that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Y'all are the truth. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you can take the info and apply it to whatever you're doing. I hope it helps you out, and I hope to improve in my street photography forward going on with this channel. You guys will be along for the ride, and hopefully maybe in a few years I'll be able to make another video saying here's how I improved over the next few years. So do me a solid, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button for more, and shout out once again to the sponsor Skillshare. Make sure you head to that link in the description of this video, get that free 2-month trial. So that's it, y'all. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.